What's up, all you Jinko-wearing, candy-loving vampires? We're Thralls of Metal with a thrilling and chilling episode of Real Metal. We're gonna talk about the soundtrack to the movie from the future, Dracula 2000. Playing the part of Gerard Butler is Rin.
And I'm Necrotic Nick, which probably would be played by Patrick Warburton. Anyway, so we figured we needed some Halloween-themed movies, some horror movies, and in terms of soundtracks, this one kind of came up just because I vaguely remember the movie, but I remember buying the soundtrack, and I don't think I saw this in the year 2000. I also skipped Blues Brothers 2000, Pokemon 2000, but I did see Godzilla 2000 in theaters. Yeah. Priorities. But this one had, at least the time in 2000, where nu metal was pretty much at its peak, had a pretty decent soundtrack. And, well, going back and seeing if it's aged has been an interesting journey. Now, this soundtrack came out on the 12th of December in 2000. And the movie actually came out in December too, which already told me about as much as I needed to know in terms of how much faith the production company had in this movie's success, since they really didn't shoot for an October release for a horror movie. They put it out for a different holiday movie, and well, it didn't do so well.
Celebrate Christ's birthday with a Romanian vampire story.
Played by a Scottish gentleman. It all makes sense. And this was 2000, so clearly he was a cyborg vampire emerging from a cryotube in the vast flying car-riddled future of 2000?
Dystopian?
Well, we were working on it at least. Now, when this came out, though, is kind of important in terms of a soundtrack and in terms of what it was promoting, because a good chunk of this was unreleased material and promotions for stuff that would come out the following year. But this also had some B-sides from notable bands that already come out with stuff in 2000, and some stuff that was just thrown on there because it was popular in 2000. Like, it was not a B-side, it was just, hey, this was on the radio. And I might as well get that one out of the way. It's One Step Closer by Linkin Park, and I was really tired of that song because holy shit, it was everywhere. But I didn't realize that fucking 7 other singles would be all over the radio in no time, and that's why I would say this is kind of nu metal's peak, because that was probably the highest selling album in that entire subset.
I liked it the first time I heard it.
For the most part, this is very much a nu metal soundtrack, but there are some things that are outside of that influence, at least. We have a really solid track from PANTERA on here, and this is one I definitely wanted to talk about because, honestly, why wasn't this on Reinventing the Steel? Avoid the Light. Honestly, in terms of like the 2000s era PANTERA, that last small window of PANTERA we had, this was one of the best songs they wrote.
Yep. The only reason I can think of it wasn't on Reinventing the Steel because it doesn't go for the jugular the entire time. It's acoustic and there's melody and stuff, but unmistakably PANTERA.
Yeah. I mean, the opening acoustic melody is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, the Avoid the Light, I mean, it kind of relates to vampires.
It's definitely vampiric.
And then Slayer's Bloodline, which was a teaser for what would come with God Hates Us All, which was pretty much a nice apology for Diabolus and Musica. Bloodline flat out whooped ass, and it was really cool to see them use that track as sort of like the lead-off track. Like, yeah, One Step Closer was already fucking huge and annoying people.
Push units.
But this is Slayer, and Slayer wrote a really cool, groovy Slayer song, which honestly is one of my favorites in terms of like that era of Slayer. Like, when they came back after Diabolus, they came out swinging. And that song, instant hook, kind of a tuneful chorus, which, you know, Tom's really not known for tuneful. Mostly he's just shouting things he, you know, doesn't like at you, like, you know, religion. But this song just flat out whooped ass, great video to promote it. And after that, we kind of get into like sort of the mishmash that is this soundtrack.
Yeah, some of the newer bands, you have System, who was pretty new at the time. We knew them from the Very Strange first album.
Love it.
And they do a cover of a Berlin song. I didn't know they had more than the one.
It is not the Tom Cruise, Kelly McGillis love-making song. It's a song called Metro, which about riding on a metro.
That's subway.
Yeah, for us U.S. folk.
Yeah, Yanks.
honestly, I think I've only listened to that original song once, and System made it theirs. It's quirky, it's punky.
Yep. Sounds like a System song.
It does. There's a weird little bridge part where Serge just goes full cornholio, and it just kind of goes right back into the chorus.
And it works.
And it works. It's a fun cover, and kind of like all of System of a Down's covers, they just kind of take their own little spin on it. They're not big on tradition. It's like, nah.
You ever heard their cover of Snowblind?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's very unlike the original, but still amazing.
And for a horror movie soundtrack, you'd think you'd have a one Robert Zombieff, but we don't get him. We get his brother Spider Zombie. That's not his name. But POWERMAN 5000, which I didn't mind.
Me either.
They were fun. As fun as Rob Zombie is post White Zombie.
Space Cadet Zombie.
Yeah, he didn't really watch Hammer films or whatever with Rob. He was watching
Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
Earth versus the Flying Saucers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, different spin. Ultra Mega is kind of a fun song. Like, it's simple. The lyrics are dumb and repetitive, but that's kind of the POWERMAN 5000 style, at least the one they got popular with Tonight the Stars Revolt. And it feels like a B-side from that album, namely because it is. But I mean, it's at least a fun sort of like boogie to it. It's not terrible and thoroughly unlikable like Disturbed's track, Welcome Burden, which opening, I mean, it sounds like, hey, this is kind of got a cool riff, a nice groove, and then David Draymond starts talking about heavy things.
Wookie wookie! I don't know what he says.
I hear heavy, and then heavy,
I'm heavy, too heavy for these little pants. Sweaty, dripping down my ball here. Why'd I turn him into James Hetfield all of a sudden?
I don't know. I mean, he says, just about.
No, mommy! Don't hit me again now!
No here!
No here!
You're sending a lot of mixed messages with the no and the yeah. It's all very confusing, but it's also all very bad.
Yes.
And, I mean, at one point I did like Disturbed, and it was pretty amazing how quickly that novelty wore off.
Yeah, really, really odd. Dropping plates on your ass, like, alright.
Like, it took me more than 5 minutes to realize that was stupid.
Yeah, well, yeah, longer than should.
Wait, that says a lot about me, unfortunately.
It was weird time in the 90s.
Weird time.
2000s.
Weird times. But yeah, there's definitely some questionable stuff on here, but again, this is sort of a mixed bag, and the promos for 2001 kind of worked out as good stuff, because again, Slayer, that was coming out, and what a great single to lead off with Bloodline. But you also had Monster Magnet's Heads Explode, which they were pretty much trying to write another absolute banger, of an album, or at least popular album, after Power Trip, and this is an interesting song. I like it. It's a James Bond boogie, but on mescaline, because
psilocybin.
Yeah, something like that. He's got the kind of clean surf rock guitars, a big powerful chorus, a lot of repeating lines about what he's going to do to your sister. Don't trust Dave Windorf in the 2000s. You don't know where he's been.
Don't eat the mushrooms.
Or do. I don't know. Have yourself a fun journey. But yeah, interesting song. But then you had new bands that they were promoting, and some of these weren't great, namely Saliva. And this was the first time I think anyone heard the song Your Disease, and unfortunately it wasn't the last time, because that band sucks. I'm trying to think of nicer things to say, but that's the only word that can come out.
I mean, best band ever, really, in my opinion.
Superstar, rockstar, whatever, I don't know, they're terrible.
I'm getting my labret pierced after this.
You gotta dye your bangs blonde, though.
Yeah, spike them.
Yeah, I feel like you gotta do that first, then you get the labret piercing.
I want to look like Guy Fieri.
So wait, you want to look like you got struck by lightning while drinking a fucking 1 liter of Mountain Dew?
Yeah.
Okay.
While listening to Smash Mouth.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's a rock star moment right there. And then Endo's Malice, which I had seen this band live a couple of times. They were at an Ozfest, but granted, when I saw them at Ozfest and that time I saw them here, which I believe was at the main event, I forget who they opened for. A lot had happened. They start off as a rap metal band, but it's weird rap metal band. It's like if Marilyn Manson and Rage Against the Machine came together on a project, and it just feels so out of place and really just kind of a basic song. The song Malice is, there's nothing to it, really.
Nah, not really.
A lot of repeated lyrics, and yeah, kind of like all the negative nu metal tropes. And granted, I don't think this was like signaling the downfall of nu metal just yet, but it was coming. If this was the second tier that was coming up, like, yeah, this is the next, batch of great bands that are coming up after, Mudvayne blew us away in 2000. I don't know.
One could say the end was one step closer.
And then you had some actually halfway interesting stuff with Flybanger's Blind World, which I have to admit, the weird jazzy intro and him just saying, bitch.
It's kind of smooth.
It's pretty funny. I mean, kind of a generic riff that carries it, but it has like a little sludge metal sort of tag to it, like a little bit of Southern rock, which I believe they're from Canada. So
Southern Canada?
Southern Canada. It's got to be like NOLA, right?
Yeah, I think so. There's
Colder,
gators.
colder gators.
Polite gators.
Polite gators. Like, oops, sorry about biting your foot there, guy. Oh, that was my bad. It's just this wicked overbite. I got too many teeth.
Some of the fun stuff on here, you got Swan Dive from Head PE off of the album Broke, which...
That's pretty good.
Don't think about it. Just enjoy it, because if you think about it, you're like, wow, this is kind of silly. But yeah, no. It's a party record, party song. Otsego Undead from Static X is a pretty banging song.
That was when they started to get heavier. That was an interesting one, too, because that song ended up being on Machine, which came out in 2001, but it was a slightly different mix. But I liked this song as soon as I heard it. It's just driven by a chuggy D beat.
Yep.
And it's just kind of a fun, like, danceable pitter? I don't know.
When Wayne was on, he was on.
Yeah. Those first two Static X albums, I still absolutely enjoy.
Yep.
And this song is still one of my favorites on Machine.
And then you got a weird song by a weird band, Godhead, featuring the guy, he's trying to be like Marilyn Manson. Break You Down, it's alright.
I mean,
It's okay, it's spooky.
sounds like a song that Manson would be on.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't mind the first Godhead album. I thought it was pretty good. That cover of Eleanor Rigby seemed like it should have been everywhere because it's probably the song most people know from that album. But yeah, I think Manson was on there just because those guys were buddies. I think they were on Manson's label. But honestly, I saw them at Ozfest and they put on a really, really good show. There was a lot of kind of big, baggy Jinkos, except they had all the chains and just clips for nothing.
Yeah.
Like you were supposed to hang nothing. They were just supposed to dangle there and you were supposed to trip on them and crack your skull later.
I think you're supposed to hang your Tachigami from it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you gotta keep that thing alive and clean up its poop.
Yeah.
And in terms of another one that, well, we just didn't bring up, but I mean, it's on there, Taproot's Day by Day, which I guess at this point Taproot had been kind of blown up with the first album, Gift. This definitely screams Castaway. Lyrically, I have no idea what it's about. It sounds like he's just rambling about being friends with someone and then not being friends with that same person. And then, of course, I don't know, it's kind of a thrown together song. Didn't make the album for a reason, was pretty obvious. But overall, this is kind of an interesting soundtrack, mainly because of when it came out, and it was used definitely more as a promotional tool, and it is most definitely a window in time.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, I haven't broke out the Jinkos in forever, and this doesn't exactly make me want to break them out. But for its time, it was an okay soundtrack. So overall, I'm going to give it 3 stars. There are some really good songs, namely Pantera's Avoid the Light. That is almost worth the price of this CD, which honestly you can find it in a used bin for probably about $2 now. But that is a really killer song, and Bloodline was a really good launching point for it. But overall, there's a lot of nu metal cast-offs on here, and it's not the best examples of the genre because there were really good examples in nu metal. It just didn't show up on the soundtrack, and honestly, Linkin Park didn't need to be on this. They didn't need to throw this track on there. It was everywhere. I couldn't walk into a Hot Topic and not hear that song playing in 2000. But overall, decent soundtrack. You know, look at it as a, again, window in time. Way, way back. In the future, in the year 2000.
I reckon I'll also go with 3. If you took off Avoid the Light, It would probably be like a 2.
Yeah, no, yes.
Beyond the Pantera and the System song, there's not too much you can't get on the other albums of the bands that you like anyway, and you probably would have bought the album anyway, so you'd have the Static X song and the Slayer song, and, you know. But at the time, Avoid the Light was the only way you could get it. We didn't have computers or electricity in the year 2000, so we only had wax cylinders we could play on big horned crank majigs.
Did you have to wear the ear horn too to hear it, or the horn project?
Yep, 2 Campbell soup cans.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how we did stuff back then. Did you see the size of our pants, for Christ's sakes?
That's where we stored the soup
They're
cans.
still wet. From the knee down.
It's true. You stepped in a puddle, you absorbed the entire puddle.
I stepped in a puddle somewhere in 1998, and they're still wet. Why? Anyway, not bad. Check it out. I need to watch the movie again because I saw it 21-ish years ago and don't remember that Gerard Butler was in it.
Yeah, actually, I didn't remember that, or Christopher Plummer, or Johnny Lee Miller, or anyone was in it, because honestly, again, it came out at, December, not the horror movie time. So it was kind of destined to fail. And the Wes Craven Presents is maybe a tad misleading because the guy that directed it was his editor for the Scream movies.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's about it. It's a movie about a Romanian undead immortal that's played by a Scottish gentleman that we knew much later, but everyone pretty much forgot this.
Yeah. He's not probably even in the top 10 Dracula portrayals.
No. There's definitely a lot of competition, though.
Yeah. Leslie Nielsen.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you would like to help us out there, just click the link down below. And we also are kind of coming to the end of our 7,500 giveaway, because we're almost there. In fact, by the time this comes out, it might have happened. Like, we're that close. So if it has, disregard this message. If it hasn't, comment on that video, and you are entered to win the stack of 8 CDs, including the new Cannibal Corpse, which was donated by him, and I wasn't allowed to take it. Oh well. We also still have shirts available. We are eventually going to reload on that, but for now, we still have some, and if we have the size you're looking for, we'll have to find out when you send us an email at thrallsofmetal@gmail.com. Just throw in the message shirts, and we will get back to you, let you know if we have that size, and hopefully sell you a shirt. So with that, I thank you all for watching once again, and we will catch you later.